Good evening, President Biden, sir. My name is Aaron, and for my own protection, I'm going to hide my last name because I know that if I get this released, it's going to make things even worse. I am asking you for a full presidential pardon for what happened at the Canandaigua VA Medical Center last week. And I'm here to inform you about a vicious, bloody, and brutal gang-up sexual assault at the Rochester General Hospital about 7 years ago, of which there was an investigation, and of which I got very sick and because of all of the pain I was in, my organs started to deteriorate and I was dying. We have a lot to talk about. There's a lot of civil rights being violated here. There's a lot of trust being violated here. There's a lot of justice getting stepped on and throttled. Interference of justice and the pursuit of justice. A whole lot of problems we need to talk about. And I'm just begging that you'll give me a full presidential pardon and exonerate me for what happened at the Canandaigua VA Medical Center, because boy, did they do me wrong. And boy, have they hurt me. Deep psychological pain and horror from Rochester General Hospital and Canandaigua VA Medical Center. And I went to high school at the Canandaigua Academy right down the street of that hospital. And I graduated a full year ahead of my peers to enlist in the Marine Corps so that I could go to boot camp in 2002. 7 years ago, I was viciously sexually assaulted and practically gang raped at the Rochester General Hospital. I begged them to stop. I told them that they were wrong. I begged them to take me to the VA hospital. I pleaded them any way, shape, or form that I could, and they didn't ease off the pressure, and they made it worse and worse and worse. While I begged them to take me to the VA as a veteran, while I pleaded with them, while I begged and cried out for mercy, I begged for mercy, they surrounded me with thugs and young women, young American women, probably 20 to 21 years old. They ripped my clothes off, sir. Made jokes about me while I was naked in the presence of young American women. Young American girls saw this. Oh, there's 10 or 11 people that are in real big trouble. And a lot of those people knew what they were doing was absolutely wrong and terrible and horrible. And they continued to do it anyways because of peer pressure. They knew it was wrong. Not one person said stop. Well, I begged them and told them to stop, and I pleaded with them for mercy. I begged, sir. I begged and I cried out for help, and they didn't. I got no help. A young American girl would force a catheter into me while I was being held down after jokes were made about me while I was naked. And boy, was that a horrifying and extremely painful experience that was so traumatizing that today I can't even get over this. Then the head nurse looked into my eyes and smiled as she injected me with some kind of a powerful drug. The next day I woke up in a drug-induced daze because they'd put a powerful drug in me. I didn't know what it was. And in a stupor I woke up, and a young American nurse or hospital staff, a young American nurse, yanked that catheter out in full force, and boy, was it bloody. boy, was it bloody. I felt so utterly and completely defeated. So sad and hopeless was I. I was crying on the inside, and I just did my best to act strong. I stumbled to the bathroom, and I urinated blood on the toilet. And I felt as lost as I could possibly be in life. I never got to see a doctor or anything. Never got to talk to anybody. As I was walking out, another young American girl, a young American girl, put a piece of paper in front of my face and told me to sign it. And I felt so humiliated and so lost and so destroyed. And I was under the influence of the drug that they gave me. And it had to do something with, you accept that this was okay or something like that. And so I signed it. I felt so defeated and lost. Utterly destroyed. Oh, President Biden, sir, I definitely did report that. And the hospital did an investigation. And I reported it to the Canandaigua VA Medical Center, and I also reported it to a veteran outreach center that was under the umbrella of the VA Medical Center in Rochester, and I can name names and I can point fingers. On both sides, Canandaigua and in Rochester General Hospital, I could name names, but you know that I can't, because then their justice would end up being in the streets and the entire medical system would be in chaos. The stress of everything that happened was so intense that my intestines became diseased and infected. I was bleeding nonstop. I couldn't get the bleeding to stop for close to 5 years. And for 5 years, I was the walking dead, fighting for my life every single day. After I had reported everything that happened and started the investigation at Rochester General Hospital, and after I had reported it to several people at the VA Medical Center system as a whole, I tried to pursue justice, but the blood loss was very extreme. I was talking to lawyers. They wouldn't return my calls, and even if they was, I was losing so much blood that I was very, very tired all the time, and I was skin and bones, and yes, there are witnesses, and yes, I was having bloody accidents a lot, and yes, every single day was a fight to survive, and yes, even the VA knows about all the bloody messes and the accidents. I was terrified to get medical assistance because of what had happened to me at Rochester General Hospital. Make no mistake about it. That's practically a gang rape. And nobody likes to talk about that. Normally these things get buried. People will just commit suicide, and I'm still here alive today, fighting. When my family finds out about this, and when my friends find about this, and when the Canandaigua Academy finds out about this, people are going to have a lot of questions. And I hope to God people are going to support me. So for 5 years, I clung to life. For 5 years, I clung to life. And every time I tried to think about what happened at Rochester General Hospital, my symptoms would just get worse, and I would just get closer and closer to death. I was unable to pursue justice because I was dying every day for nearly 5 years. That in itself interferes with justice. When stress of a victim gets so high that he starts dying, he's unable to pursue justice. That's interference in justice. This is a civil rights issue. I was able to get a colonoscopy at the 5-year mark. I found out I had ulcerative colitis. We were treating it wrong. We thought I had hemorrhoids. Turns out I had ulcerative colitis. Didn't know I had a propensity to that disease, but obviously it was accelerated because of all the horror and the shock and the trauma of Rochester General Hospital. I was able to improve my credit. Once my health turned around, I started eating better, getting better sleep, because obviously after the wave of antibiotics and the big red horse pill, the mesalamine or whatever it was, I was able to once again return to a state of physical well-being. Combining that with all the good eating habits that I had acquired over the past 5 years, and then exercising again, I was able to build up my credit. And I was able to buy a duplex and a 4-unit house with a VA home loan. COVID was really, really hard for me, sir, because people refused to pay. They were gaming the system, and they were difficult to work with, if not impossible. And I had people that wouldn't pay, and they were on moratorium, and they had destroyed my basement twice. And boy, did I lose a lot of money from that, because they were flushing their baby wipes down the drain, and I couldn't evict them. And then 30 days later, they flushed more baby wipes down the drain, and they flooded my basement again. I was out a lot of money. And still I survived. But always in the back of my mind, always disturbing my sleep, always waking me up in horror and terror was the memories of Rochester General Hospital. I wanted to pursue justice more than ever after 7 years. I've always believed that you should forgive at the 7-year point. I can't, no. I want justice in this life, sir, not in the next. I don't want justice on the streets. I want justice in the courts, and I want millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars for what happened. If I was served well anywhere by Canandaigua, by Rochester, then I would be able to point to it. I can't point to anything that they did that served me well, but I can sure point to where it hurts, and that's Rochester General Hospital, Canandaigua VA, and the Rochester Outpatient or an Outreach Center. It's still under the umbrella of the medical system. I can definitely point to where it hurts. And it hurts in my heart, and it hurts in my soul. Real, real bad. So 7 years ago, I started an investigation at the Rochester General Hospital, and I wasn't really able to pursue much, but they did a full investigation. But again, I was dying. And then just recently, last week, I went into Rochester General Hospital, didn't cause any trouble, went up to records, ordered my records, and was able to get those records through the mail. It took about a week. And I now have those records, and I've got a lot of names on there that I would love to make public, but I know that if I mention those names, you know what's going to happen to those people. They're going to disappear. And that will be impeding justice, and that's not lawful, and that's not how a law-abiding citizen behaves, sir. It has to be dealt with in court. Bear in mind, I'm also a firearm owner. I'm a licensed hunter, I'm a licensed trapper, and I'm a licensed fisherman. I have firearms, and I am an expert archer. Well respected for my extraordinary level of uncanny archery abilities. People say they've never seen anything like me shoot a bow. I love to target shoot, but it's been years since I fired a firearm. But I was trained in the best military of the world, the United States Marine Corps. I'm an expert with a rifle. Sad to say I'm only a sharpshooter with my pistol. But I don't have a pistol. I don't have a pistol permit. We're in New York. I have no criminal record except for a nothing burger of a misdemeanor, no jail or prison or anything like that, a little baby slap in the wrist. It was nothing. Young men will end up getting a little misdemeanor for something, but this was a nothing burger. I admit that I was wrong, but there's no lasting consequences at all. My criminal record is clean, sir. It's clean. I'm 38 years old. I don't do any drugs or alcohol. We're in the state of New York. Marijuana is legal, by the way, but I like to be a clean thinker. I'm a firearm owner. I still have firearms. Nothing super duper. But I've got some firearms, but I don't have a pistol and I don't have anything illegal. And I want to get a pistol permit, and I'm 38 years old. I've got solid references, no criminal background. My driving record is spotless, sir. I don't do drugs. I'm not a nuisance. I help people out. I'm a business owner. I'm profitable. I helped a man get on welfare, Section 8, and I walked him through opening a bank account today. And I also took him to the Social Security office to make sure that his SSD was good, and he's applying for SSI. All the while, I have all of this pain, and I'm serving other people. So a lot of stuff's going on. Yeah, it's a lot of stress. But you have to understand, sir, I fought for my life for 5 years. And I had a pitiable service of 4 years in the Marine Corps, but I was discharged honorable, a full honorable discharge. And boy, was it bad. But I made it. I made it. And I've always fought for my life, and I've always fought for today, and I've always fought to be better for tomorrow. And I'm 38 and I want to have a pistol. I'm a law-abiding citizen, sir. But I also had issues and trauma that I wanted to offload off of my chest. A big, heavy yoke of trauma that I want to talk about. And yes, it is possible for someone like me to have a lot of really terrible, complicated, and complex grief because I was sexually assaulted and freaking basically gang raped in the presence of young American girls. And it's a lot of stress being that the only place I can talk to is Canandaigua VA Medical Center, and I went to high school there. And I want to have and I want to get a pistol permit, and I should be a no-brainer. And I'm a law-abiding citizen, and I'm an outstanding businessman, and my prospects are through the roof, and I'm helpful. In the reach of my sincerity to do good in this world, the people that I help and give shelter to and give a place to live and help people, I did the right thing. So I called the Canandaigua VA Medical Center. I told them I had opened up a reinvestigation at Rochester General Hospital. Obviously, we had to because a new president came in from the Ford Hospital, complicating things even worse because I know the Ford family, not the entire Ford family. There's a lot of branches of the Ford family. But I know the Josephine Clay Ford side. And John Engel, Josephine Clay Engel Ford, Clay Ford Engel, depending on who you're talking to. Further complicating everything, because I had an incredibly intimate relationship with their daughter. Oh, yes, they know me. This is very complicated, very difficult for me to go over all this stuff because I have to think. We had a very, very special relationship when I was a young man, and it was destroyed. And that grief, because of we were in war, and that's very complex and complicated and hard feeling. and their families poured a lot of money into these medical systems, and I know this. And the new president, he came from the Ford Hospital, and I'm constantly reminded of all of this. I'm constantly reminded of all of this. So I called the Canandaigua VA Medical Center, and I told them that I had reopened an investigation and that I wanted to pursue justice in court in no uncertain terms. Not once I say I wanted to hurt myself or others. I kept doubling down on my commitment to do great business. I told them that I was getting loans, and I told them that I'm a landlord and I help people, and that I want justice in the courts. And I kept doubling down on the fact that if the names of anybody got released to the public, there'd be chaos, and I never would get an answer, and I never would get any justice. They passed me around, and they toyed with me, and they did manipulate me, and they did screw things up. Oh my God, they peppered me, sir. Do you want to hurt yourself or others? I go, no, no, no. They kept asking me over and over and over again. And I kept saying, no, I'm committed to survive. They ended up calling the police on me. And here I am trying to work a pistol permit. At the time, I hadn't been approved for my $25,000 loan. I've got an active investigation for sexual assault and basically gang rape at a hospital. It's very traumatizing because the president just moved from the Ford Hospital, and I know and I know my fair share of the Ford family, and I did in fact lie to their family for 16 years because I never told them why I left. I never told them about how horrible I was being abused and mistreated. I never told them that my brothers threatened to murder me and how hard that was for me. And it was very difficult for me to be around young men with post-traumatic stress who had killed men. And I was just a Kings Bay Marine, and Kings Bay was not caught off guard. Kings Bay stood shoulder to shoulder with the most elite units in the world. A lot of 0311s and riflemen had their chances of a quality military existence destroyed and sacrificed because Al Qaeda had destroyed our trade towers in New York City. And because of that, the trajectory of normal grunts got scattershot all over the board, and you had to have grunts go all over the place because we had a heightened security everywhere. You take a low-level military base that's relaxed all the time, and then you drop the trade towers, and then you have a threat that could come in at any given time. Yeah, if you're a grunt, you're no longer going to be going to the fleet. You're going to go where your country needs you. Things were fine with me and Josie when I was at Kings Bay. When I got to the fleet, I was surrounded by young heroes with post-traumatic stress, and they did hurt me so bad. And I couldn't tell the Ford family that, and our relationship was annihilated because of the pain, my brother's pain. Is a lot for me to take in at 38 years old. I'm mature enough to talk about all this now. Most men, if what had happened to them, they would have obviously killed themselves because that's what the data indicates, that stress and alienization and combat shock and returning to home and realizing that things just aren't the same, or they're the same as they always were, but they came back different. It ends up being a double, triple, quadruple whammy on a lot of our young brothers and sisters, and they do unfortunately take their lives. I lost Josie, and I never told her what was going on. She doesn't know that my brothers threatened to murder me at 22 Easy Company in Iraq. She doesn't know that my brothers at 1A Bravo Company scared the living hell out of me, and she doesn't know any of that. Nowadays, at 38, I look at things different, sir. I say, well, that's just the burden of duty. You lose a loved one, that's duty. You become a punching bag for young heroes that are young and horrified, and you're a young NCO, a young corporal that came out of a security force company, and they all think they're better than you and that they're all hot shots, and that they all look down on me like I was a fleet dodger because I went to Kings Bay, Georgia. Look, out of the School of Infantry, I got plucked out. I had to go to Chesapeake, Virginia to do security force training. My country needed me. Lots of grunts ended up doing security detail for several years. Presidential Security, Bahrain, Kings Bay, Fast Company, just to name a few. 0311s. Yet I was looked at and treated and spit on because I was treated like a fleet dodger. And the stakes were so high because the security was had to be as tip-top as possible, because Al-Qaeda was a fierce opponent and they would strike any way, shape, or form, and they wanted to get our secrets and our precious assets. So I had to do that for our country. And the sacrifice I made was that when I went to the fleet, I had no infantry skills, but man, were we all locked on tight with security while we were in Kings Bay. But they treated me like I was a fleet dodger. They belittled me. They scared me. They yelled at me all the time, ganged up on me. I was scared all the time. And I couldn't tell that to Josie and the Ford family. And that was a heavy, heavy weight for me because their family was so prestigious and honorable, and I became rather low born. They're honorable, old, seasoned money, and here I was, just plucked out of Canandaigua Academy. I graduated a year ahead of my peers as the only one from my class to do so, to go to boot camp in 2002, a year after the trade towers fell, and I was being treated like a fleet dodger. I was tricked into a gear closet somewhere in Iraq in my platoon in 22 Easy Company, and I was threatened to be murdered because I wasn't doing good enough. So 2 young Marines specifically threatened and definitely reassured me and made sure I understand that I would be murdered if I didn't improve. And of course, I couldn't tell any of this to Josie. Couldn't tell any of this to the Ford family. That's why our relationship had to be imploded. I never did tell her for 16 years. Everybody in my community watched me suffer I had to leave Canandaigua because my reputation was so destroyed, sir, because everybody watched me suffer. But how was I supposed to recover from that? Now at 38, it's different. I understand that these young men needed help. Their country needed them. And yeah, in a time of war, sometimes sacrifice means you have to be a punching bag for young war heroes, because that's going to pick them up at that time. Is that right? No. Is it wrong? Yes. But that's sacrifice. And in war, when you enlist, duty means sacrifice. And sometimes duty means you have to deploy as a combat replacement to a unit full of young war heroes, and they don't know who you are, and they don't like you, and you're not trained for the war that they've been getting their brothers killed in. And sometimes duty means that you have to be threatened and reassured that you'll be murdered in the desert. And I didn't understand that until now. Was that right? No. Was it wrong? Yes, but that's the truth, and that's the way it happens, and I've protected their names and their identities. Those young men, they wouldn't do that to me now, sir. They wouldn't do that to anybody, and chances are they got deployed and redeployed. They're probably all dead. And if they are alive, they'd never do that to anybody. And that's not just me being naive or being willfully dense about the situation. Duty is very complex. Serving your country is very complex. Sacrifices have to be made. Again, was anything that happened good or right? No, it was awful and wrong. And do I acknowledge that it was all horrible, horrifying, traumatic, tragic, and wrong? Yes, I do acknowledge all of that. And am I guilty as hell for not talking to Josie and the Ford family about that? Yeah, I'm guilty as hell about that, but I was also ashamed, and I was young, and the burden and the yoke of freaking the everything that a 20-year-old young man isn't ready to talk about, it got bad. And they all thought I was doing good. And my family all thought I was doing good. And they all told me how strong I was. And I just said, yeah, I'm great. But man, was I done. Man, was I scared. Josie has a great life now, and I am so proud of her. President Biden, sir, what I want you to understand is that I'm a reformed man. I'm in a lot of pain, but I'm reformed. I've worked this out every day for the past 16 years, sir, no matter how I work it out. Josie and I, our relationship gets destroyed, or the reputation of the Ford family gets destroyed. Let's look at it this way, sir. Josie and I are happily going along our way, madly in love. So ridiculously and passionately in love that it's an actual threat to the family. You know what I mean? Young lovers, what are you going to do? Parents. If I was a parent right now and I saw love like that, boy, would I be doing anything I could to get those young lovers to be separated. But as a young man, I did not understand that. And Josie didn't understand that either. And we were madly in love. And it was awesome. So, scenario one is after School of Infantry, somebody else has to go to a security company, and I go right to the fleet. I deploy to the front lines. So after School of Infantry, I come home on leave, and Josie and I spend more time together, and then I go to the fleet, and then I deploy over to war. I die, and then Josie would be the first Ford in history to have had a loving relationship with a veteran who died in a foreign war. In that scenario, Josie loses. Also, another scenario is I come back a war hero, and I end up being just like my brothers that hurt me. I propose to Josie. She accepts my hand in marriage. And I have post-traumatic stress. And because I'm a war hero and because she's a Ford, she has no choice but to marry me. And because of her family's prestige and honor, there's no way that she couldn't accept my hand in marriage. So we'd have to get married. And I would just be, shocked and horrified. And I would end up putting Josie through a lot of pain and trauma. And maybe we would end up getting divorced, and that would be bad for Josie, and it would be bad for me. And bottom line, I would end up getting redeployed again and probably killed. Or we marry and I deploy again, and I do survive, and then I deploy again, and then I survive that. But then I'm so traumatized and so horrified, and she and I are only 22 years old at that time. And I come back and I'm a reckless drunk. I'm an abusive alcoholic. I'm a drug user. Like so many veterans that come back with all kinds of problems, I'm abusive to Josie and I'm abusive to her family. I go out and get in car accidents. I kill somebody or I commit suicide. Josie loses in that scenario, and her family has to do millions and millions in damage control. The best possible outcome that happened for her family was what happened to me, is that I just swallowed all the pain. The relationship vanished into thin air, ate the pain, ate it and ate it and ate it. Josie gets married, has her life different, but she's young and she could recover and bounce back. And then I just stay away from her and her family and I don't make any contact at all. And that's the route that I took. And because of that, I know where they live. I know all the windows. I know the garages. I know where their automobiles are. I know everything. Do you have any idea the kind of responsibility that is when you know that much about a prestigious family? You are either a criminal about it and you take revenge on those people and you destroy their family, or you do the only honorable thing that you can, and that's just eat your turd. So that's what I did, sir. And I was so defeated and so demoralized, and I stayed away. I never reached out to any of them. I never made any attempt at all to communicate with any of them. I never trespassed on their property. I never talked about our relationship. I never talked about anything confidential or anything that I had seen. And because of that, they were able to quietly drift away from all of that. And they were able to resume a normal life. President Biden, sir, that's just duty. And it hurts a lot. And it is complicated grief. It's rather complex. Anyways, I tried to talk about all this stuff at the VA, and they would go and call the police on me. And that was a screw job. I never said I wanted to hurt anybody or myself. I tried to set up an appointment at the Canandaigua VA Medical Center to inform them about the investigation at Rochester General Hospital. Over and over and over again, I tried to close on an appointment. I tried to close on an opportunity to talk to a doctor. And they kept peppering me with, are you going to hurt yourself or others? And I said, no. Because I wanted an appointment and I wanted to talk. And I want to have a pistol permit. Think about all the responsibility that I hold that I have not destroyed. I could have laid waste to my family and to Josie's. And I never did. I ate my shame and I swallowed that fat turd. My family would end up losing faith in me, but I didn't destroy the relationships. They saw that I was suffering, but they knew that something was wrong. They saw other veterans on stage being declared heroes. And they knew that I wasn't a hero. And they knew that I was ashamed. And they knew that I just needed space. Other veterans, they'd become so traumatized, they would literally kill their families. They would kill their whole families and commit suicide and murder suicides. I never did that. I just needed time to think and room to breathe. I lost the faith of my family, but they don't hate me, and it's not, and they still, but they still love me, and I never destroyed my family. I gave the Ford family space, and the Ingalls. I never pestered them for money or for a job. I never used anything, any kind of leverage on them or anything like that. The only reason we're even talking about the Ford family is because we got the president of the Rochester General Hospital. He moved over from the Ford hospital, and the Ford family donated like $8 or $9 million to that hospital. So yeah, that guy's, and God knows what they've contributed to Rochester General. I want you to understand that I weigh heavily things and I do research and study. And no, I'm not making any of this up, sir. And yes, they did give money to your campaign. I also saw that. 1.4 million, was it? And they gave 1.2 million to Trump. I do my homework. So yeah, I want a pistol permit, and yeah, I can be trusted because my thinking process is exceedingly complex and correct. Absolutely. Anybody else with the weight of all this, they would have destroyed everything. They would have went on some crazed crusade to destroy the hospitals. They would have went on some crazed murderous rampage, unsettled hospital staff, clogging up phone lines with prank calls and threats, and coaching other people to do it. There'd be chaos. And then you would need a security force at every hospital because everybody would always be under threat, and doctors and nurses would refuse to work without massive increases in pay. And then you'd need to get a presidential pass just to get an appointment to go see a doctor anywhere because everybody would be on such a high alert status. I understood and I educated myself and I did weigh all this and I did understand it, and I understood it way better than the girls that I was talking to. And they would absolutely betray me by calling the police on me, knowing that all this was going on and I just wanted to have a talk with the doctor in person. They scared the heck out of me, sir. I thought that the police were going to bash my door in. It was going to be a home invasion. Here I am, all the good work I've been doing, I repaired my life. And I'm at a point in my life where I can actually help other people get up in this life. And I'm thinking that the police are going to bash the door in and it's going to be a home invasion scenario. And I'm going to lose my firearms as a licensed trapper, as a licensed hunter, and as a licensed fisherman. I'm thinking they're going to go into my safe and take my firearms. I'm thinking I might even get shot. They're yelling through my window. So yeah, I was scared and I was super pissed at what the VA did because that was a screw job, sir. Look at how far I have come and they treat me like I'm about to freaking cause chaos in society. So yeah, I did freak out a little bit when the police started banging on my door because let's face it, I was manipulated by Canandaigua VA Medical Center and tricked. One of the girls called me and asked what my address was, and 5 minutes later, police were banging on my door. That's manipulation, and that's kind of like entrapment, and that's like a huge civil rights issue. And when veterans find out about this, they're going to be pissed. Oh my God, are they going to be pissed? And sir, they're going to find out about it. But that's okay. We can control this, and we can fix this over a 40-year period. If we do it my way, nice and low and slow, 40 years down the road, we'll have an upgraded VA medical center where we better understand the needs of veterans. And we don't need to send police out. We don't need to scare the crap out of veterans who are gun owners who are trying to get pistol permits in New York, which is an impossible scenario in itself. But veterans are going to start hearing about this. And yeah, you're going to have veterans who are kind of on the fence, and they're going to see this message, and they're not going to want to call the VA, and they're going to be scared. And that could be a real bad thing. But when it happens to someone like me who's innocent, who's smart, and who's going forward in life, that's a second that everybody else's worries take a stop at my rights. My rights to be a gun owner, my rights to pursue a pistol permit. My life is my right. It's not in your hands. It's not yours or anybody else's, sir. If you're worried and I'm not doing anything wrong, guess what? I don't want anybody coming after me. But anyways, the girls sent somebody after me. I went to Canandaigua Academy. Everybody in Canandaigua was going to find out about this, but we can control this, sir. And we can have slow change over 40 years. 40 years. All we got to do is wander in the desert for 40 years, and we're going to get to the promised land, and it's going to be better, sir. We don't have to have chaos now. It's going to be bad. It's already bad. You already got vets killing themselves like crazy. And it's going to be the same for a long, long time. But we got to reach a point where a veteran who's going places, who has super legitimate and sophisticated thinking, who's absolutely right in everything, can have a phone call and set up an appointment without having police bang on his door, and that individual doesn't have to be threatened about a home invasion. That's unlawful. So it's a civil rights issue because now it's going to be almost impossible for me to get a pistol permit. I don't have a criminal record, and I've got a spotless driving record, and I don't do drugs, and I don't drink. I have outstanding references, and my relationship in my community is great. So in that hot, heated moment where I was feeling completely betrayed by my country, I uploaded to YouTube police banging on my door and yelling through my window. And yeah, I was yelling at the Canandaigua VA Medical Center because they screwed everything up. They aggravated and irritated my ability to pursue justice with Rochester General Hospital. They did. Like I said, there's a funnel called justice, and what they did was they forced their hot turd down the throat of that funnel and clogged the main artery of a pursuit of justice. If I were to interfere with a police officer's investigation, I would be impeding an investigation. That's a criminal offense. I could go to jail for that. Depending on the nature, I could even go to prison. Yet the VA Medical Center can do that. They could put me in a high-pressure situation where I think I'm going to get my firearms taken away and add stress and throw gas onto something where I'm already, I already know what's going on. I know what I got to do. But they complicated it and made the situation even more complex. And that is a civil rights issue because now it's more difficult for me to pursue justice. We've got a prison-style freaking gang rape going on in a hospital. It's impossible for me to get a freaking pistol permit because now, and I understand the VA Medical Center's concerns. I uploaded that content, and they didn't want people to find out what happened. They didn't want people to find out that, oh yeah, on a simple routine phone call, the police can come to your house. Maybe do a warrantless search. You might even get shot. They don't want people to know that. Well, I'm a whistleblower here. I am a whistleblower. As a patient of the VA Medical Center, they screwed up real bad, and I blew the whistle. And they're saying that I bullied. And they're saying that I bullied them. They're saying that I bullied them. That's why I need a presidential pardon, sir. Because the Canandaigua VA is saying that I bullied them, and they've got a flag on my VA account So now any VA I go to, I have to check in with the police. And I have to have a police escort to go to routine situations. Had they just given me an appointment the first time, none of this would have happened. But instead of giving me an appointment to see a doctor, they sent police, which could have ended up being an absolute home invasion. It could have ended in a veteran getting killed. This is another big issue, sir, because our boys in blue, they're not qualified for that kind of stuff. So what are they? Are they licensed therapists? Are they psychiatrists? Are they supposed to be SWAT pros that can go save children who are getting shot up in a mass shooting? So they have to throw their lives in the line of fire if there's a mass shooting in a elementary school, middle school, or high school. And then they also have to settle meaningless squabbles between neighbors, traffic tickets. They're getting shot, walking around in broad daylight, and they have to be traffic police. They got to do routine stops. Plus, they even have to be escorts sometimes for VIPs. Plus, if there's a problem in a business, say a dumpster catches on fire, they're going to have to go there to make sure the pedestrians don't go climbing into the dumpster that's on fire. And then they're also supposed to be a quasi, quote unquote, outreach support for the VA hospital now as well. At a certain point, it's pretty ambiguous what our police force is supposed to be. This is why I'm saying we need 40 years to fix this problem, because this isn't the way to do it. Because if we're trying to make our boys in blue a catch-all for everything under the sun, yet they don't have any other additional education and degrees, then one, they're being abused and they're being thrust into hopeless scenarios. And the people they're trying to serve are being belittled because the people that they're trying to serve know that the boys in blues aren't qualified for that. When a Marine Corps veteran has legitimate grievances, and as a response, the VA sends out the police to a non-threatening situation, when that veteran's trying to close on an appointment to see a doctor and they send the police instead, don't you think that's a little messed up, sir? Don't you think we ought to just close on an appointment to get that veteran sitting down on a couch next to someone so that they can talk about their issues? Don't you think that's a more qualified approach? Don't you think that's more legitimate and sincere? It's sincerely insincere, belittling, and destructive for the VA to send out our boys in blue who aren't qualified for this at all. And no, I refuse to accept that some 22-year-old police officer is qualified in any way, shape, or form to talk to me about highly complex societal issues, hospital issues that have to do with sexual assault, gang rape style sexual assault, bloody messes, military issues, being surrounded by young brave heroes who have post-traumatic stress, who definitely wouldn't do anything they did to me in the past to me now. And let's just be clear, I have never said to anyone the names of anybody from 1-8 Bravo Company or from 2-2 Easy or even the platoons. So all anybody knows is 1-8 Bravo and 2-2 Easy. Nobody knows the platoons and nobody knows the names of anybody, just so we're clear. Man, if I was going to hurt somebody, the first thing I would do would be release those names, because I'd have to be having the intent to hurt somebody at 38 years old to now realize the full burden and the yoke of duty and honor, and to understand that those young men would absolutely rescind what they said and take all that back, and they'd never treat me like that to this today. And knowing that that's not the way they are, and knowing that most of those guys are probably dead and that they would never do that to me now, for me to then release their names to the public, yeah, that would be an attempt to hurt somebody. And I never did. That ain't manning the hell up. That's growing up, sir. So this has to do with firearms and me getting my pistol permit. This has to do with sexual assault in the hospital. And it was sincerely difficult for me to pursue that because I was dying. And of course, men are almost never going to admit that anything like that happened. And it has to do with a man having very complex and complicated grief because of a relationship that went sour because of war. And obviously, let's be honest, when you're just some lowborn dude and you have access to that kind of potential with that Ford family, that was a really big loss. But again, and then also impeding justice and stifling and choking the snorkel of justice, because I'm trying to pursue justice here because I know what happened to me was wrong. And now we have to talk about this and all of this. And you have one person right here who's been hurt by hospitals tragically, and I'm the one person trying to talk everybody down from chaos. I'm the only sane person here, sir. If it was anybody else, they'd be trying to destroy the hospital system. There'd be chaos. I'm just trying to talk people down here. That's why I need a full presidential pardon at the Canandaigua VA Medical Center, and I just need that flag taken off of my account, sir. If you'd please help me with that, that would really be great, so that I can get on with this investigation. And I want millions and millions of dollars for what happened. I know I can't fix things with the Ford family. I understand that. And I know I can't fix things with my family because they know that I've been dishonored. They know I was dishonored. They know I had an honorable discharge, but they know I was dishonored. And I can't have this conversation with them. So they give me my space. So I lost two families. And both were the best I ever had. I lost two families. And I don't want to cause chaos. I don't know what else to talk about right now, sir. I'm at your service. There's a young man, he's 22, he's one of my tenants, and I'm getting him on track to get this guy wealthy. And I have a pastor friend, we're going to do business together, and I was thinking the three of us could get to work together. Sir, I'm just spitballing here, but if I can create a three-way kind of a deadlock, kind of a partnership with these guys, and just kind of retire and give and support them both, I would love to work with you, but you don't have to. I'm just spitballing here, sir. I'm loyal to my country. I am. But I'm going to continue to pursue my pistol permit, even after all this. But you know that once because in New York, you got to do a long pistol permit, you got to get your references, and all my references are solid. But because I have a VA medical record, I have to disclose that. That's the law, sir. Which means that the sheriff is going to call the VA hospital, and then the VA is going to say, yeah, well, he's got a red flag on his account, or at least he had one, and he's a bully. Well, what a mess. So please, sir, please exonerate me from this. Please take this off of me, and please pardon me 100%. for what happened at the VA. Just make it go away, please. Make it disappear like it never happened, please. I will do anything that you ask me to do, sir. I will. That doesn't violate my rights. I will kiss your feet. I will lick the bottom of your shoes. I will pick a booger out of your nose and eat it. I'll pick a booger out of your nose and stick it in my nose. I will. I'll do anything that you tell me to do that doesn't violate my rights. I just need your help here, please, sir. Thank you for your time.